practice today. So if you do happen to have something around you that you want to sit on, feel free to grab that. It might be a block, it might be a cushion, it could also be a chair. I'm going to sit myself on a block. And that could be kneeling, it could be cross-legged, or you could have your legs out in front of you. We will be in that position for a little bit of time. So I'd encourage you to find something that feels comfortable for you. It really does not have to be cross-legged. If you are in cross legs, then perhaps there is something underneath the hips. Just so they kind of lift up a little bit here to help ease a little bit of tension around the front of the body. And then taking any kind of movement that you need to help you arrive perhaps in your body, perhaps in the space around you. So it might mean a good kind of look around. It might mean a stretch around through your neck. So you could take a few big circles, or maybe a few wriggles through your shoulders. Whatever it is you need to kind of let yourself know that you're starting to find your practice this evening. And at some point here, you might draw towards that sense of stillness. And as always, we never have to be perfectly still within these moments, but you might draw towards that sense of stillness, even if there are wriggles happening. And we might take a few deeper breaths in and out here. So any way that feels good through your body, whether that's through nose or through the mouth, maybe a combination of both. Those deeper breaths just to kind of get the air moving, prana or energy moving around the lungs. And then returning to your natural rhythm of breath here. You're welcome to have your hands anywhere that you would like to, but invitation is to perhaps bring them today onto our heart to get started. So as we will be finding a bit of a heart opening flow today, perhaps our check-in is based around this space. So starting by perhaps noticing the temperature that your hands feel landing on this area of your body, and equally the temperature of your body that your hands feel. Maybe noticing the texture of your clothing or your skin here. And then perhaps starting to tune in here. And that might be tuning into your breath. If it feels okay to tune into your body as well, you might find that as well. So perhaps noticing how your body moves with the breath here. Or checking in with how you're doing today. So whether that's how you're feeling physically, any sensations happening. You might also check in with yourself in the mind, emotionally, how you're feeling. Perhaps noticing if you can feel your heartbeat under your hand somewhere. An option is there to work with the breath a little bit more here. So if you are joining, you might start to find a slow, steady inhale through the nose and a slow, steady exhale through the mouth. Starting to build a rhythm within your own breath here. It doesn't have to be a certain length. What feels right for you today, and that probably depends what we've had on with our day as to how kind of deep or shallow the breath might feel, or how relaxed the body is. And we might keep those breaths going here for around another 10 to 15 rounds. As we fully arrive both in the space and in your practice. You may have already closed down the eyes. You're welcome to find a soft focus in front of you instead. Maybe as we continue taking these breaths here, other bits and pieces are coming up for you. So whether there's little bits of aches or pains, maybe thoughts pop into your head. At some point here, perhaps sliding our hands together at our heart. So in our prayer hands or our Vinyasa. Taking a couple more rounds of breath. From here, we might start to add movement in with our breath, starting by peeling just our middle 3 fingers apart away from each other here, and then rounding through our palm. Little finger and thumb might stay touching here. The same with the heel of your hands. We're almost making a cup shape here. Our lotus mudra, perhaps it kind of resembles one of those flowers from spring. And then on your next inhale, perhaps taking that lotus up towards the sky here, super slowly to begin with, and then opening that up, eventually drawing our palms back together through at the heart center. We might keep that movement going here, so that peel of the fingers apart, and then opening up to the sky. Up to you if you are moving with breath here, but if you are moving with breath, perhaps it's a really big inhale as you rise and an exhale as the hands draw back together at the heart. We might take that another 2 or 3 times. Maybe you start to explore kind of stretching up tall as the hands draw up and wide as they come round. Perhaps there's one more in there. As the hands come back through to our heart this time, pausing there. So again, back to a moment of stillness. You're welcome to use this space to set yourself an intention for your practice this evening. So maybe there's something you'd like to focus on. Maybe it is that connection to or opening to the heart. Maybe there's something else that's personal to you. And if nothing particular comes to mind, perhaps we land somewhere on being curious within our practice this evening. And then from here, dropping chin down towards the chest. Hands might come down to lap or towards your knees here. And then taking 3 circles with the nose around up to the sky, over to the other side, and then back down. So starting to move through the neck here. These could be really big circles or they could be quite soft. And once you've done roughly 3, taking the opposite direction as well. So those circles, anti-clockwise or clockwise, depending which way you were going to begin with. Eventually, again, coming all the way back through to center, chin tucks down towards the chest, holding that here this time, lifting our shoulders up towards the ears. And then when you're ready, dropping your shoulders back behind, all the way down, taking a few circles back up. So drawing the shoulders back up onto the back of the body, back down. And then again, one more round of circles here. This time on an inhale, hands both find the sky. Length is upwards. Exhale to draw the elbows wide to find our cactus arms here. We'll come to our cactus arms a couple of times today within our practice. So elbows are roughly in line with the shoulders, and you might take a little moment to kind of take a look around where they are. Palms are facing forwards here. Whenever we're in this position, you could have the elbows literally alongside your shoulders, or you might start to peel the elbows backwards. So finding a little bit more opening through the chest. And when we do that, squeezing shoulder blades back together behind you. If you're exploring that, you might take one more round of breath here. And then drawing our hands all the way back down. We're going to take a roll over into our child's pose here. So you could either roll over the knees or swivel everything to the side here. And rather than fully coming down into our child's pose, perhaps finding a slightly more lifted variation here. So hands might come towards the top of your mat, knees roughly in line with the hips, but the chest slightly more lifted than we might normally do here. So rather than kind of coming all the way down, you might take a sway of the hips side to side, maybe a little bit more movement through the neck. We're going to start to play with our rolling cat-cows, but adding in this kind of child's pose variation. So from this position, imagining that someone is lifting us up by the shoulders. So shoulders start to draw upwards as we come through to our cat pose here. Shoulders are rounding towards the sky, looking towards your knees, and then dropping the belly down to look forwards into your cow pose. When you're there, starting to sink the hips back. So it's super similar to our cat cow. We're just adding that dip backwards here. And we might keep that movement going. So shoulders draw us up to cat, belly drops, and then hips sink us back to our cow pose variation. We're going to take that for roughly another 3 or so rounds. As your space, so move freely here. If you want to keep moving, keep moving. If you want to leave that child's pose out, leaving it out. Perhaps there's one more round wherever you are. Eventually meeting back in our tabletop. Tucking both toes under here. So knees want to be stacked underneath the hips. Toes are behind us. And you could stay here, pushing your hips back towards the heels, or you might walk your hands towards your knees. If this is feeling stable, hands come onto the thighs. So whether you're up or down, your choice. If you are up, we might take our hands towards the sky and then open back to those cactus arms again. So elbows draw wide, palms are facing forward. Maybe that toe stretch is starting to intensify. We might take a couple more breaths here, maybe an inhale to reach hands to the sky. Exhale to draw the elbows wide. And then taking the hands all the way back down to the ground into our tabletop, giving the feet a really good wriggle and a release. So circles or rotations through the ankles. You could also tap the toes on your mat here if that feels good. And then again, sinking the hips all the way back to our child's pose. So option 1, you could find exactly as we did before, rolling into our tabletop and our cat-cow. So I'll do one more just to remind us, that lift of the shoulders up as we come to our tabletop cat pose, and then dropping the belly down to look forward, cow pose, sinking the hips back. Option 2, we'll take this all the way down onto the belly into our cobra. So I'll talk us through that one as well. From your lifted child's pose, looking forward, and then drawing the chest forward all the way down onto the ground, legs reach out behind, lifting just the chest to find your cobra. And then pushing the hips back towards the heels. And you might keep that going here. So looking forward, all the way down onto the belly, chest lands, pushing into the palms to lift just the chest to cobra. And then again, hips sink back to the heels. So whichever variation you're taking, we might take another 3 rounds here. Whether that's your cat-cow, whether that's your cobra, your choice. Perhaps feeling into the body again, noticing how that feels around your spine. And then again, eventually meeting back in our tabletop. Hands are stacked roughly under our shoulders. Knees are stacked roughly underneath the hips. Tucking the toes again, this time lifting the knees away from the ground, hips find the sky for your downward facing dog. So bending generously through one knee and then the other knee, exploring your downward facing dog here for a moment. If you would rather stay in tabletop, take that position instead, and maybe you wriggle through the hips. Wherever you are, perhaps seeing if we can release through the back of the neck here by looking to the toes, giving the head a real good shake or shimmy. Maybe you take a few rounds connecting to your breath again. Option on your inhale to rise high onto your tiptoes and exhale to sink into the seat. You might take that a couple more times here. Just on cue, there is my click of an ankle. And then whenever you're ready, looking towards your toes today, walking our hands towards the toes. So we're coming to our forward fold at the back of our mat today. You might shuffle the feet so they're roughly underneath the hips, letting the hands either dangle down here or taking hold of either elbow. I'm going to encourage a gentle or quite a big bend today into the knees to help draw our torso down here. Again, maybe the head is hanging. You might take a sway side to side. Rather than our roll to standing today as well, if you aren't holding your elbows, you might take hold of opposite elbow here. And then swinging the elbows over to the left, opening this up to the thigh, elbows draw up, and then circling back round the opposite side. So taking a few big circles here, maybe 3 in one direction. Some point, reversing those circles and taking 3 in the opposite direction as well. So our elbows are kind of guiding us up and down. Eventually landing standing, landing standing, it rhymes. Elbows are overhead, releasing the hands to the sky, and then hands alongside the body. If it feels like you want to roll through the shoulders for a couple of rounds, take a few rounds here. We'll come back to our cactus arms within our lunges in a moment here. But before we get there, we'll take our true selves through one round of our Sun A. From here, palms come alongside the body facing forwards. Maybe there's that tallness within your mountain pose or Tadasana. And then when you're ready, hands find the sky, extended mountain pose. From here, your forward fold, hands all the way down to the ground, bending through the knees as much as you need to. And then hands find the shins or the knees to lift up halfway our flat back. So we're looking forwards here. And then bending the knees as much as you need to take this to your downward facing dog. Before we come all the way through this one, a reminder that your vinyasa does not have to be a plank and coming all the way to the ground. You could drop the knees there and take a. If you are taking that option, finding it here, otherwise drawing forwards to your plank, dropping the knees down, untucking the toes, and then finding the floor. Pushing into the palms to lift the chest up to find cobra, tucking the toes, meeting in your downward facing dog. We'll take a round of breath when you get there. This time, looking forward, taking as many steps as you would like to find the top of your mat forward fold. This time we will take that slow roll all the way up to standing. So uncurling the body. Hands might reach overhead, palms perhaps coming together, and then landing down at the heart. Beautiful. We're going to start to come into our sun salutations today. We're going to find our sun salutations with our lunges and those cactus arms as well. And we'll take this first one nice and slow. If you want to increase speed, increase speed. If you want to stay slow, stay slow. So your mountain pose, top of the mat, feet again, either under your hips or toes close together. That slight bit of softness in the knees. Maybe you're finding tallness up through the chest, palms alongside the body. And then when you're ready, opening hands up towards the sky, all the way down to your forward fold. Lifting halfway. From here, hands come down, right foot steps back, right knee drops down, toe under. Have the knee if you want to here. Hands find the sky as we open ourselves up, and then elbows wide to find that cactus arms variation. We'll hold this for a round of breath. And then hands find the sky. Taking our hands down to frame the front foot as we tuck the right toes under, lift the right knee, downward facing dog. Left foot finds the right. Vinyasa of your choice. So whether that's rolling forwards to your plank, finding your way down to the ground, or your cat-cow. If you're on the ground, wherever you are, back bend, toes tuck, downward facing dog. We'll find that low lunge the other side. Right foot steps forward this time, left knee drops down, left toe untucked, finding yourself up here. So your hip is stacked over the knee to begin with today. Hands find the sky. And then opening elbows wide to find your cactus arms, pausing here for a breath. Maybe your elbows draw slightly backwards to that opening wider through chest. And then finding the sky. Hands come down to frame your front foot. Big push to step to your forward fold. So use the body to draw up to your fold. Lifting halfway. Folding back down. Hands find the sky. That's one round. We'll take that to the other side. So left leg leads this time. Forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands come down. Left foot steps back. Left knee comes down. Toe on top. Hands find the sky. Low lunge or Anjaneyasana. And then elbows draw wide. Lifting both hands to the sky, taking hands to the floor to frame your front foot, tucking the left toe, stepping to your downward facing dog. Vinyasa of your choice, rolling forwards to your plank to the ground or dropping the knees, taking your cat-cow. Wherever you are, we'll meet back in our downward facing dog. Left foot steps forwards this time, right knee drops down, right toe untucked, hands find the sky. And then that cactus arm variation, elbows draw wide, palms face forward, finding the sky, and then the ground as we step back to the top of our mat, forward fold. Lifting halfway. Folding back down, both hands find the sky, find each other, and then find the heart. We'll take a pause there for a round of breath. We're going to repeat that one more time here. On this second round, option to take your high lunge with the knee lifted or your low lunge. So choose which you want to work with, your choice. Starting by grounding down into the feet. Again, hands might come back alongside the body, palms facing forward. And then when you're ready, opening hands to the sky, extended mountain pose, and your fold. Lifting halfway, hands to shins or knees. Hands on bow, right foot steps back, hands find the sky. So whether your knee is up or down, your choice. And then elbows draw wide. If you have that knee lifted, can you still keep it bent here? Breath in and out. Hands find the sky. Your downward facing dog. Left foot steps to right. Feel free to pause or to take your vinyasa drawing forward to your plank, knees, chin, chest, or chaturanga to the ground. Lift to find your back bend, toes tucked, downward facing dog. Right foot steps forward this time. Left knee up or down, your choice. Hands find the sky. Elbows draw wide to your cactus arms. Hips are facing forwards. Maybe there's that bend through your back knee. And then hands find the sky all the way back to your forward fold, top of the mat. lifting halfway, folding back down, hands find the sky. We'll keep it flowing. Feel free to rest if you need, or your forward fold. Our left foot leads this time, halfway lift. Hands come down, left foot steps back, high or low lunge. Either way, hands find the sky. And then those cactus arms again. Lifting hands to the sky, downward facing dog, hands come down, right foot step to the left. You could pause here or take your vinyasa to the ground. Lift to find your back bend, collarbones are forward. And then again, meeting back in our downward facing dog. From here, left foot forward. Both hands find the sky. Right knee up or down, your choice. Cactus arms, elbows draw wide. And then hands find the top of your mat, framing your foot, stepping to your forward fold. Rising halfway. Folding back down, hands find the sky, find each other, and then the heart. Again, we'll take a moment here. Maybe your focus is on breath, your heartbeat. Maybe it's on the feet and you take a little bit of a sway around, playing with your balance. Before we start to work into our flows here, perhaps finding a little bit of standing movement. Again, that opening through the chest, but squeezing through the back of the body. So from our palms at heart, opening to our cactus arms, elbows draw wide, palms face forward. And we'll take this into a little bit of a hug and rounding through our shoulders forwards. So from here, palms find opposite shoulders. Tucking the chin down towards the chest. Maybe you even lean slightly forwards here. And then on an inhale, opening back to your cactus. Exhale to cross the arms in the opposite direction, finding either shoulder, dropping chin to chest, folding down. We'll take that twice more, opening to your cactus arms. Maybe you even lean back slightly this time, and then finding opposite shoulder, drawing chin to chest, folding down one more time. Opening up cactus arms, maybe you lean back slightly. And then hand to opposite shoulder, chin tucks to chest, folding down. This time opening to the sky. We'll come back to our flow. From here, forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands come down, right foot steps back, right knee comes down, but this time you might keep your right toe tucked. If that does not feel comfortable, untuck it. Maybe your front foot slips forwards by about an inch here. So you've got a little bit of space to lean the hips forwards. So we're opening into that right hip flexor, hands open to the sky. Option to stay exactly where you are, both hands in the sky, or keep your right hand where it is, but left hand starts to peel itself backwards. Palm is facing to the left. Top hand opens to the sky, so hips might draw back slightly. Gentle back bend, or maybe it's not even that gentle. Take a round of breath. And then cartwheeling the hands down to the ground. We're going to pick that back knee up and find the same in our high lunge. So right knee lift, both hands find the sky. We'll take a moment here first to kind of steady into this pose. So your feet might be wide on train track, hips are facing forward, bend is there through both knees. Right heel is pushing towards the back of your mat. Hands find the sky. Again, maybe this is where you stay both hands up, or keep your right hand high, left hand starts to peel backwards, palm facing to the left. Looking up towards your top hand, maybe the hand reaches up higher, left hand is reaching down. How does that feel through the side of the body? We're going to take a funny backward stroke to find warrior two. Left hand circles forwards, right hand circles back, right heel drops down, warrior 2. So we're grounding through the outside of our right foot here. Front toes and knee are facing forwards though. Hands draw wide. Your warrior 2. Take a couple of breaths within that. And then right hand comes to find your heart here. So it's resting on your heart. Reaching your left hand and torso forwards to flip palm to find the sky. So we're in our reverse warrior, but hand is on the heart here for support. We'll take a breath here. And then unraveling back to warrior 2, both hands draw wide. Left elbow comes down to left knee, left hand lands on your heart where the right hand was. Right hand finds the sky. We're going to take that twice more. So we're switching the hands around as we draw up. Left hand finds the sky, right hand finds your heart. One more time. Elbow finds the knee, left hand finds the heart. And then opening that up to the sky, pausing when you get there. Maybe your focus is on your top fingers or on your left toe. Take one more round of breath. And then again, cartwheeling the hands down to the ground. Right hand stays grounded, right knee drops, right toe untucked, left hand circles upwards to the sky, but reaches back behind this time. So maybe you stay here and kind of move in and out of that. Left hand circling back to the sky and then reaching to the back of your mat. Hips are drawn forwards here. If it feels like your left knee is drawing out to the side, so is mine, that's absolutely fine. We'll take one more round of breath. And then left hand circles back to the top of your mat, tucking your right toes, downward facing dog. You could pause here for 5 rounds of breath or drop the knees, or your vinyasa rolling forwards to your plank, your way down to the ground, lift to find your back bend, and then again, meeting in your downward facing dog. Maybe it's your child's pose for a few rounds of breath. If you want to keep moving, take that space to keep moving here. Your practice. Find what you would like. You might also be kneeling like I am today. But wherever you are, perhaps checking back in with the breath. If you're in your downward facing dog, maybe there's those rises onto tiptoes and sinks into the heels. If you're in your child pose, you might be doing the same with your shoulders, kind of lifting them and rocking them back down with the breath. If you're resting and you want to stay resting today, staying where you are. If you are ready to come back to movement here, we'll meet in our downward facing dog. So hands come back forwards, toes tucked, hips find the sky. This time looking forwards, finding your way to the top of the mat. So whether it's a big step, a hop or a walk, lifting halfway, hands find shins or knees. Folding back down and then opening to the sky. We'll take everything we've just done on the other side. So as we open to the sky, coming back down to find your forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands come down, left foot steps back this time, left knee drops down. Toe might stay tucked this time as we find our low lunge, but our front foot creeps forwards an inch or two. Hips might reach forwards as well. Hands might find the sky. Again, you could stay here, thinking the hips forwards and feeling that opening through the left hip flexor. Or keeping your left hand high this time, right hand starts to peel back behind, reaching towards the ground. Finding that kind of opposing forces, pulling the fingertips in opposite directions. Maybe you feel that deep opening through the left side. And then circling the hands all the way back down to the ground. Lifting your left knee. We'll take the same from our high lunge again. So drawing up to our high lunge first, checking in with the feet here. If it ever feels easier to have the heel drop down, take the heel drop down instead. Hips might be forwards. Bending through both knees, taking the hands to the sky. Again, you could stay here, focusing on drawing the hips slightly forwards, or you could keep left hand high, but peel the right hand back again. Maybe your focus is on those left fingers reaching up. So that line is a big curve from your left hand all the way down to your left heel. We'll take another round of breath wherever you are. We're going to take that weird backwards crawl circle into our warrior two. Right hand circles forward, left hand circles back, dropping the left heel down, warrior two. Beautiful. Take a moment to find your pose. Grounding through outside of left foot, hands might reach wide here. Left elbow bends to take our left hand to our heart. So again, we're going to support the heart in our warrior flow today. Reaching forwards, flipping palm to the sky, reverse warrior. Still bending through the front knee. And then slowly taking your left arm forwards, unraveling the arms wide, bending through your right elbow to take elbow to knee and hand to heart. Left hand is opening to the sky. We'll take that twice more. Feel free to move on your own here or to come with me as right hand unravels, left hand finds the heart, reverse. Maybe it's a big exhale as we circle the hands back down, extended side angle, right hand finds the heart, left hand finds the sky. One more time, pausing in reverse warrior. So right hand opens up, left hand finds the heart. Maybe you take a slight lean back with the shoulders here. And then circling both hands down to the ground, framing your front foot. Left knee drops down, left toe untucked. Left hand plants under the left shoulder, right hand reaches forwards and then opens up to the sky. You could stay here or heeling your right hand backwards, hips forwards. And again, maybe you take a little moment to kind of come in and out of that. So wriggling forwards and backwards with the hips in time with wriggling the top hand forwards and backwards. And then pausing somewhere within that. Taking a breath. Right hand circles back down to the ground, tucking your left toes under, and then stepping to your downward facing dog. Again, option to pause here and drop the knees, or to take your vinyasa forward to your plank, all the way down to the lift to find your back bend, and then wherever you are, we might meet in your variation of child's pose. So whether that is lifting up on the palms, whether that is down on your forearms or reaching the hands forward and dropping the forehead. Wherever you are, we're going to take around 5 slow, steady breaths here. Again, you might be tuning back into your breath, your heartbeat. Maybe you're checking back in with the body. You might enjoy staying exactly where you are. Option to find our puppy pose. So puppy pose is that deep back bend, and again, opening through the front of the body. If you are joining for that, stacking our knees over our hips. So we're in our tabletop to begin with here. We're going to try and keep those hips stacked over the knees, but reaching our hands as far forward as feels comfortable here. And you could either drop down onto your elbows and forearms, or if it feels available to you, then dropping all the way down onto the chest here. Either one, seeing if we can keep those knees stacked, hips even stacked over the knees. If it feels pinchy at all at any point, please do ease back out. I find that having my elbows a little bit wider in this pose helps me to create a little bit more space, something you might feel like exploring. And then wherever you are starting to unravel back to our tabletop, and then all the way back to our kneeling position here. We're going to come into our half camel here. There will be an option to take full camel if that's within your practice and you want to enjoy that. But we'll explore our half camel first here. So if anyone has a block and they want to use their block for this, I'll show us how to use that. We also don't have to use it for this practice. We're going to start by tucking the toes under here and then stacking our hips over the knees. At any point, you can untuck the toes if this does not feel comfortable. And if you want to place something under the knees for a bit of softness, you could place a blanket under that. So again, we're going to try to keep those hips stacked over the knees. Both hands find the sky here. And just like in our warrior two, we're going to take our left hand onto our heart to support to begin with. Right hand opens up to the sky, and then right palm turns outwards to face the right side of your mat. From here, reaching that right hand back behind, hip stays forwards. It might stay reaching like mine is currently, or if it feels available, you could take that right hand all the way down to your heel or to your block. Seeing if we can still keep those hips forwards. Option to keep left hand where it is or to open it up towards the sky here. See how that feels. Chin can stay tucked to chest, or you can look up to the sky. I'm going to keep my chin tucked today. And then wherever you are, let's take our left hand back onto the left heart, tuck the chin first, and then take that right hand all the way back round so both hands land on the heart. We're going to take it straight to the other side. If you had your block there, take your block round to your opposite heel. Both hands find the sky. So length is upwards to begin. Head is stacked over shoulders, stacked over hips, stacked over knees. And then right hand finds the heart. So left hand is still in the sky. Left hand turns palm to face outwards. And then seeing if we can peel that left hand backwards, left shoulder draws back. Maybe it stays here and reaching. Maybe it comes all the way down towards your heel. Still seeing if we can keep hips forwards, chin might be option to open right hand to the sky or to keep it on your heart here. Noticing how the breath feels when you're in this position. And then wherever you are, right hand comes back to the heart, chin is tucked as we draw ourselves up. Left hand comes onto the heart. We're going to untuck the toes for a moment, give them a rest, drop the hips back down, put the hands onto the thigh, and also tuck the chin here. It might be that you pause in stillness for a moment, or you could take a really big circle with the neck. Like we did at the start, you might take that circle in the opposite direction as well. Now, is that one more kind of space here to explore full camel, or if you want to, I'm going to talk us through something else as an option. So wherever we're going, we might stack our knees or hips back over the knees, toes tucked or untucked. Either way, hands find the sky here. Option one is to stay here and explore that length and maybe a slight lean backwards. Option two is to find that length upwards. Left hand starts to peel back. Maybe it finds your heel. Option to take your right hand back and find your heel. If that is something that feels comfortable for you, it is a strong back bend. Those of you that are still here might then take your hands to your lower back, placing the palms on your lower back, elbows squeeze back behind, and then lifting the chest, but squeezing the shoulder blades back. Whichever variation you are in, we'll take another round of breath. Whichever you are in, chin tucks towards the chest to start with, and then slowly peeling yourself back upright, untucking the toes, sitting back on the heels. And again, we're going to take a moment to kind of neutralize through the spine. So that slight rounding forwards here, but not too far in the opposite direction. So hands might land on the thighs, chin might tuck the chest. Taking a moment here. And then that option is there to take a few circles through the neck. So big circle through the nose, one direction, and then the opposite direction as well. And then wherever you are, we might walk the hands forwards here. So those of you that would like to start exploring your rest, you might stay fairly low to the mat here in your child pose. Those of you that would like to flow through one last sun A, starting to rise back up to find your downward facing dog, tucking the toes, hips, find the sky, downward facing dog. Look forward here as we step or hop or walk to the top of our mat, forward fold, rising halfway. Fold back down, hands find the sky, find each other, and then find the heart. For those of you that are standing here, your last standing posture of our practice here. And we'll take this through our sun A with an optional back bend as we take the hands to the sky. So this time in our sun A, palms stay together as we open towards the sky. You could stay here, fingers reaching up, or starting to lean backwards here into your back bend again. And then slow and steady, peeling the hands apart all the way down to the fold as we draw our chest forward, bending the knees as much as you need, and then lifting halfway, hands to shins or knees, looking slightly beyond your mat. Hands both come down to the ground as you step to your plank pose, one foot and then the other. Knees could be up or down here. Either way, finding the ground if you want to take your cat-cow instead, or lifting the chest to your cobra and then pushing back to your downward facing dog. From our downward facing dog, we're going to look forward, stepping our feet just behind the hands. So rather than in line with the hands, feet are just behind, drawing our toes as close as we can together here. So rather than our malasana where we take the feet wide, or our yogi squat, seeing if we can drop the hips down here, hands are on the ground for support. So heels are probably going to come up, mine definitely are. Taking a moment here, those of you that want to explore a little bit of balance, you are welcome to take one hand to opposite knee, opposite hand to opposite knee, and balance on the toes. Wobbles always welcome. Little bit of strengthening through the feet. If you want to challenge yourself further, dropping the chin down towards the chest here, maybe even closing the eyes. And then we're going to take this all the way down onto bums and then down onto our mat. So you could stay balancing by keeping the hands on the knees here or taking them back down to the mat, slowly rocking ourselves backwards, landing on heels and then landing on bums. Taking those legs out in front for a moment, have a bit of a wriggle, whatever you need. We're going to start to make our way down onto our mat from here. So through our optional boat pose. Knees come up towards the sky, feet stack roughly in line with the hip. Knees are roughly in line with the hip. Chest is lifted, so we're finding tallness up here through the spine. Option one is to take the hands to the knees and then roll along the thighs until eventually we come down onto our mat. Option two, to come through boat pose, lifting one shin up here and then the other shin. A little bit of kind of core work here. When I say core, I mean the whole core. So shoulders are working, sides of the body are working, chest is still lifted. Maybe you float the hands, maybe you don't. Wherever you are, maybe there's those two slow, steady breaths. So rather than holding the breath here, we're still breathing. And then we're going to take that all the way down to the ground. Slow and steady. Eventually landing on your mat, giving yourself that moment to arrive. Rather than hugging knees into chest here, perhaps planting the feet down on the mat. So knees are back towards the sky. We'll take our bridge pose a couple of times here. So feet are stacked roughly in line with your hips again. Heels as close towards the glutes as you can, palms facing down towards them. Shoulders and back of the head are on the mat here. And then tucking our tailbone under. So that's like kind of curling under of the tailbone, like squeeze of the glute. And then seeing how it feels to peel the hips upwards here. We'll take a round of breath here within our bridge pose. Seeing if we can still keep the knees stacked in line with the hips. So give them a gentle bit of squeeze if they need it here to help turn on the abductors on the inside of the leg. And then we're going to take a slow roll back down, starting at the top of our shoulders through the mid back, lower back, and eventually dropping the hips back down. Once you land, take a sway of the knees side to side. We'll take that twice more. Option on that last one, if wheel is in your practice and that's something that you want to take here, it's a deep heart opener and you are very welcome to explore it. But starting by coming back to our bridge. So palms are down alongside the hip. Curl under a tailbone again and then peeling the hips upwards here. Maybe you walk shoulders underneath your back. You might lift the hips a little bit higher. Palms might stay down on the ground. How does the breath feel? And then slowly, whenever you're ready, rolling that back down to the ground, taking the knees for your sway side to side. If you are going to take wheel on this last one, making sure your hands are enough overhead for the palms to be flat down on the ground and then pushing up from hands and feet evenly. I'm going to talk us through our bridge pose for this last one. So if you are taking wheel, using your practice how you are used to here, and then if you are in bridge pose again, that peel of the hips upwards, holding that there. Maybe you walk the shoulder blades again underneath the body. If you want to explore going deeper, you might rise onto the tiptoes here, lifting the heels. A little bit of strengthening through the calves as well. And again, when you're ready, that slow roll all the way back down, taking a sway of the knees. If you want to take that sway of the knees all the way into the chest here, then hugging the knees back into chest. This is the first time we've really been down on our backs in our practice today. So you might use this space to explore movement, a rock side to side, or a circle of the knees here and there. And we've got about a minute here before we find our final resting pose of our practice this evening. So you're welcome to use this space however you would like to. It might be that you want to drop the knees to one side and take a twist. It might be that you want to explore happy baby here. Or anything else that you would enjoy, does not have to look a particular way. You might take legs up to the sky and have a bit of a kind of roll around with the ankles. taking that time for whatever you need here before we come into our rest. And it might even be that you start to make your way there already. And perhaps starting to set yourself up for your final resting pose here. So if you have socks or layers to keep yourself warm, you could grab those, maybe a cozy blanket. We've done a lot of kind of work through the front of our body today. So it might be nice to take our constructive rest for our Shavasana today. That might be our feet as wide as the mat. And then knocking the knees together here. We might take a moment to draw the arms across the torso. Kind of wrapping yourself up in a hug here and tucking the chin towards the chest. So the back of the head is still on the mat here, but that slight tuck of the chin to find length through the back of the neck. And then slowly sinking the arms back down to the mat. It might be that you land with the hands on the body, or you could take them wide here. Looking for something that feels restful for you. So if there's anyone that's wanting to explore that heart opening just a little bit more here, you might even take a bolster underneath your torso. Noticing where your focus is drawn. So maybe there's bits that don't quite feel comfortable here, and you could take a wriggle until you do find something that feels comfortable. And this does not have to be on your back. You could be curled up or even seated here. And as we start to draw in towards rest, maybe focus comes back to breath for a moment. A gentle awareness of breath without having to change anything. Seeing if we can melt ourselves down into our mat. Melting any tension away, softening down. Be here for a couple more minutes. Your focus might start to drift. Those of you that would like to close your practice by staying where you are, you might stay exactly where you are. If anyone would like to come through to a seat to close, starting to explore gentle wriggles in fingers and in the toes, maybe wrists and ankles. You might take a roll again through the neck, the head, and exploring any movements that you would like to take here. So again, it might be that kind of drawing of arms across the body to give yourself a hug, or knees into chest. Or if you want to take a stretch, take a stretch. At some point, you might roll to one side. And then if you are coming through to seated, perhaps finding your way through to the seat that you started your practice in here. We might also take our hands back to our heart space, so around the chest. And if it feels okay to close down the eyes, perhaps closing the eyes down here and sinking ourselves back into our heart space. Perhaps sending that space some love. Kindness. And we might take those 3 breaths together today into that space as well. So each inhale that you take here, filling up the space under your hands. And each exhale, back out. You might take that twice more. Inhale to fill the space under your hands. And then exhale or sigh. One more time. From here, palms might come back together, taking that bow to self and to each other for sharing this space this evening. We will close our practice there. You do take as much time as you need to come back into this space. If you are feeling like staying in whatever pose you are for a little bit longer, beauty of being at home in your own space is that you can kind of link off to your bed or wherever it is you would like to go. I'm just going to stop our recording.